to roll up our sleeves and run for office, because this is the only way we're going to make effective change in this country. So let me tell you my first impression with Dan Cox. I started running, and well, this was before I even decided to run. I was getting involved with the Delmarva conservative movement and the Young Republicans, and I get a text message from Julie, and she's like, "Hey, look, I know everyone's talking about Kelly Schultz. Let's get on the bandwagon. Let's vote for Kelly Schultz." And then she pointed out, said, "Let's look at this guy, Dan Cox, because there's something about this guy that really sparks our interest. It's something that we all believe in, and he had his first event in Cambridge." So I said, "Okay, let's go to this thing." So me and a few other friends and Julie and we drove down to Cambridge at the Sail Winds, where he had his campaign kickoff. And when we walked in there, I was blown away on how many people showed up to see Dan Cox running for the very first time. He was represented in every single county was there. Everyone had their own table, and it was well organized. And when I was sitting there, the only thing I could think of was, how do I know this candidate is genuine? How do I know he's effective, right? So you watch the news and you see speeches, it's whatever, right? But when you look at the man's family, right, that's where you want to judge somebody, is the fruit. And we sat next to his family, his table, and he has an army. I don't know if you know the man, but he has an army of kids. And listen, these kids were helping out. These kids were kind, respectful. Everyone was great. And from then on, I realized this is the candidate that we need to back, because he is genuine. And another reason I know he's genuine is because about a year and a half ago, we had an event. Well, there was an event for He Cook. It was a fundraiser, and it was just to raise money for a statue, right? Dan Cox did not have to come down here. We messaged him online. He said, "Dan, you should look at this event. This is something to look into." He had nothing to gain from this event. There was no publicity. There was nothing for him out of it. But he showed up to it. He showed up to it. He paid his money, and he paid his respects. And no one else did that. No one else did that. He drove all the way from Frederick to just see this, just to come to this benefit. And I mean, those are volumes of words that I can't. I'm just giving you what I've seen personally, and I hope everybody here tonight takes that in consideration. And the only way we're going to win is if we go out and tell all of our friends to vote. And I'm not talking just leave here tonight and just forget about it. No, we need to shake trees. We need to go knock on doors. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your kids, tell your friends, to tell their neighbors, because we're not going to win if we don't have the votes. And the votes are there. We just have to shake the trees to get the votes. So, but I don't want to take any more time. Thank you, Julie, because I will go on and on. And Mike Lewis wants to come up and say a few words. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
James, thank you so much. And again, we need younger folks like James to step up and start running and showing that they care and getting their hands dirty. And James has done just that. A lot of respect for him and what he's doing. And I'm hoping many follow in his footsteps with that. Next up, we do have the sheriff of the great county of Wicomico, Mike Lewis. So without further ado, Sheriff, the floor is yours, sir. Welcome on up.
Good evening. I told Mike a while ago, I love that Mike Bradley voice. Love hearing him on the radio in the morning. Love everything you do, brother. I really appreciate you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You're a true American. You're a true patriot. And I mean that. Mike Bradley's the real deal. Folks, our great nation and its traditions values, and institutions continue to be attacked from within.
Yep.
We are living in a very perilous time. A revolution isn't coming, it's already here. The all-out assault by the progressive elites has shattered major parts of our American culture. Chief among them, the rule of law. We are in the midst of a life and death struggle for our country. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. While the radical left has captured virtually all major institutions, the final outcome is still in doubt. It is imperative that we have clear insights into the true nature of the conflict and identities, tactics, and ideologies of the organized groups and forces that we are watching destroy our country.
Right.
What does it mean to be an American in 2022? What does it mean to be an American just 12 days leading up to what I believe to be the most important midterm election of our lifetime? What does it mean to be an American at a very challenging time for our nation, for every single man and woman standing here tonight?
Yes, sir.
We have a very important gubernatorial election looming on the horizon. An election I'll get back to in a minute. But here we are, October 27th, 2022, and we remain a nation at war. A war that is unlike any other our nation has ever engaged. It appears that the enemies we fight hate the freedom that is the foundation of our nation. They despise the rights that we all hold so dear, the rights of our freedom of speech. They now stand against everything our nation represents, especially law and order or rule of law.
Right.
They stand against everything our American law enforcement fights so faithfully to uphold and defend. We fight an enemy that is evil, but effective in getting their message out. We cannot underestimate this enemy or the new world in which we now live. Why? Because the radical left and the extreme progressives are here to stay. So tonight, we have a man with us who, in the absence of a rule of law in this state, decided not to sit on the sidelines and allow a few counties in the Baltimore metro area to select, not elect, a new governor for the state of Maryland. We have a man with us tonight who knows that until we secure our nation's border, we will never have homeland security. A man who wants to better protect this house, our house. A man who embraces our United States flag as a symbol of freedom and as being representative and symbolic of the greatest country in the world. A man who recognizes how the liberal left and well-funded progressives have forever changed the voter landscape of our nation. This gubernatorial election is important, ladies and gentlemen. We all know that. That's why you're here. What we don't need is another legacy of failed Democratic leadership in this state. When you head out to the voting polls in the days ahead, make sure you vote right, because there's not much of this country left. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you tonight a man that we all have placed an enormous amount of trust and confidence in as our Republican nominee in getting Marylanders across the finish line in the next 12 days. We recognize in the state of Maryland, it is a Herculean effort to elect any man or woman to the office of governor who possesses and embraces the conservative values of our Eastern Shore. We know that. That is why we're here. State Delegate Dan Cox has been fighting for the rule of law and our constitutional rights as a constitutional lawyer, businessman, and elected official for nearly 2 decades. He is the only candidate in this race with the constitutional, executive, political, and small business owner experience needed to serve as the next governor of the great state of Maryland. And when Dan Cox decided to run, it electrified everybody across this state. We all knew it was going to be challenging. We all knew where we would be today. But we've got a man who has decided to stand up for what we represent here, not just on the Eastern Shore, but across the state of Maryland. But unfortunately, we are often silenced by those in the Baltimore metropolitan area. I've often said our votes truly don't matter. Truly don't matter. But Dan Cox has been going across this state for the last year and a half fighting for everybody here on the Eastern Shore. And I'm here to tell you tonight, we're going to fight like hell to get him in the governor's office. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dan Cox, our next governor of the great state of Maryland.
Wow, what a privilege and honor, and thank you, Sheriff Lewis. I tell you, it's amazing that here we stand after all these years. When I first met Sheriff Mike at a breakfast Bible study back when I was first an attorney, about I don't know, 16, 17 years ago in Salisbury, and I knew him as a man of character and leadership then. And really, sir, you have done our state as well as Eastern Shore a great service in your life. Thank you for what you've done and for what you are doing to keep us safe. You don't mind it? May I step down just to kind of get down here amongst the people and I can see you better maybe. Anyway, it's an honor. You know, we are crisscrossing this state for you and for the flag. Our Constitution shall not fail. We have too many people that have given their lives and their all for the freedoms that we hold dear. And that's why I got in the race to begin with. For the last 2 years, we saw things happen that should not have happened. And now I feel somewhat grateful for taking those stands when the National Report Card came out this week and showed that Maryland happens to be at the bottom of the entire United States for 4th and 8th grade testing because of the lockdowns of the schools and the mental health crisis that our kids are facing. In my district, a 34% suicidal ideation increase. Do you know that the second highest killer for 15 and under is suicide in Maryland? 15 years and under. That's going to end, and we have to bring hope back. And we have the opportunity to do that because we know the truth, and the truth will set us free. I am grateful and honored to have your support. We're not here because we think this is an easy fight. We're here because we know it's a necessary one. And every single one of you are the reason why we are doing this in Maryland. Was born and raised here and grew up on the farm in Frederick, and my wife is from Secretary in Dorchester County, and so many wonderful family members here. And so I had the privilege after law school of becoming elected down here in the Eastern Shore. Town Council President, served without raising taxes, reducing problems with the MDE. And then in that process of serving as a local municipal representative, going on then later to not only found my business, expand my business, real estate and law for 17 years, but then having the realization that we need to do something more when we saw what was happening with the Obama years. So we threw our hat in the ring because one day I woke up and found out they gerrymandered me, my family, into Jamie Raskin's district, or what would become possibly Jamie Raskin's district. And I said, not on my watch, no. Anybody heard of Jamie Raskin? So we ran against him, and you know what was exciting is I had the honor of not only working with the Republicans to do that, but they warned me and they said, you cannot embrace President Trump's America First vision. If you do that in deep blue, Raskin District, Raskin Land, Tacoma Park, Prince George's, you are done. You're not going to do well. You're going to have the worst turnout ever in the history of that district. And we had the highest vote numbers. I beat Congresswoman Connie Morella was the last Republican in that district, and I had the honor and privilege to win in that district 127,000 votes, and we flipped 3 precincts that also went for Hillary Clinton in deep blue Montgomery County. Now, I'm saying that not to brag, but to say when you stand on principle and when you articulate that and you engage individuals, that's what people want. And we found out that the Asian community and the Hispanic and Latino community, they wanted education reform. They wanted to make sure their kids are going to be safe. They wanted to make sure they had business opportunity. They wanted to make sure that they had, the respect for church and their faith. and they saw some of this slipping away. And as we engaged them, we gave that vision, and that's what happened. And so we're seeing that today. A lot of people tell me, well, a lot of Republicans really, the last 3 of the 5 elections for governor resulted in Republican governors. So we can do that again because people like balance. And we'll be the only balance in Annapolis. If you have a one-party rule, there'll be no voice of the people in Annapolis. It's whatever the party says. But when you have balance, it brings accountability and opportunity. So people say, well, how are you going to win? Well, I'll tell you how we're going to win. First of all, by you and the grace of God getting us over the finish line, right? That's what we're here for tonight. And secondly, the people of Maryland want their children protected in school, and they do not want their parents cut out of their children's lives. And no matter how loud the left and the liberals scream on this issue and try to smear us and paint us, we know that even those who might not embrace the Republican or the America First or the conservative or the Christian worldviews understand this much and care so much about their own children that they don't want their little girls competing with persons born as males in their sports. They don't want gender ideology from kindergarten on up. And I was told, be careful, don't talk about these things. I had Republicans telling me, you can't talk about these things. I'm saying, what else are we going to talk about? It's front and center, and the left doesn't care. They're up in our faces with it, folks. Do you know that in Montgomery County, where they've been teaching gender ideology from pre-K on up for the last several years, do you know that gender dysphoria has gone up 360% in the children of Montgomery County, Maryland? It's coming your way, folks, unless we stand up. No one is exempt from this new world. When I hear my opponent, he goes around talking about how he's going to transform Maryland.
Oh boy.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
We're going to win because the people of Maryland do not want a defunding of the police.
Absolutely.
And my opponent is on record in Salon.com saying that is his plan and his focus. And if you read his book, there's 2 books he's got that talks about this. I was appalled when I got to page 148, and he says that Sergeant Prothero, who died in the line of duty, who he's making millions off of with his book, The Other Westmore. And you get to page 148, and he talks about how Sergeant Prothero scampered after the bank robbers and popped his head up from behind a car and got shot in the head and killed. Now, excuse me, scampered? How dare he? Our law enforcement are not animals. Our law enforcement are the bravest people that rescue and save and protect us and do it every day without thanks. And I will not apologize for standing up against that madness. And that's what's coming, folks. He's pretending, the other side's pretending that they're on our side and that they'll take care of public. The way he says it is, oh, I'm for safety. Well, no, you're not. Guess what? You're for disaster. He wants, if you see Baltimore City, that's what you're going to see. He left Baltimore City behind, and he's going to leave this state behind. He's going to export what's going on in Baltimore. His buddy, Brandon Scott, I'm sorry. With all due respect to the mayor, you go down to Baltimore. When I was just in Baltimore City today doing a speech, and there's posters up. I don't know who's doing this, but there's posters all over Baltimore City saying, missing in action, Brandon Scott, mayor. If you find him, please do. I don't know. I didn't read the fine print, but no, but people are upset because blood is running in the streets every day. When I campaigned in West Baltimore, you know what they heart-wrenchingly showed me? 2 pastors that were giving us a tour and telling us what they need in West Baltimore. You could literally see through the houses. They're that bad. Showing me videos of people twitching and dying on the streets. Thousands of pictures of this. They need all of us, yes, and we are fighting hard, and so that's why we're going to win, because Maryland does not want this exported out, and it's coming your way. Right. We stood in the Judiciary Committee, and Julie knows this, and Julie, we're going to get you in there too. And every single elected official here, your voices matter. What you are doing matters. In the Judiciary Committee, my opponent sought to defund the police, and he trying to take away through open society his buddies. Okay, he's an internationalist with international lobbyists and interests. Tried to come in there and take away police officers' pensions. Took away the complaint form used to require an affidavit. I fought on the House floor on this point, and they still overrode it. And then they pretend to be on law enforcement's side today at the election. How dare they? Now, if you arrest somebody and put them in jail, do you know what? That person can file a complaint against that officer and not even have to swear under oath anymore. That's insanity. So we're coming to restore sanity to Maryland. They can mock us all they want, but guess what? The people know what's going on. And when you go to, looking at the economy, this is the number one concern everywhere I go. I talked to some great people in Prince George's County. I did a Democrat forum there. And today, I'll tell you what just happened today. Same thing. I was in a Jewish forum in Baltimore City. They were furious that Westmore didn't show up. They called them out on it. And then they said, the number one concern they have is putting food on the table right now, making sure that they can continue to have their ability to even pay their taxes on their house. Because property taxes have gone up 34% across most of the state, and most of us don't know this. I didn't know this until I was elected, but Baltimore City has twice the tax rate on your property as any other place in the state. That's hurting seniors. Right now, seniors are getting evicted from their homes, even though they've paid off the home. There was a lady that came up to me and she grabbed my arm and she said, "I'm voting for you." But then her voice quavered and she said, "But you've got to do something for housing because 3 of my senior friends in the retirement community just got evicted because they couldn't pay their rents." Wow. That's because on September 1st, these new property tax bills kicked in. So we have a plan to deal with this. This is the path to victory. And the question remains is this: how are we going to get the message out? That's through you. Now, I want to give a huge thank you to each of you who flew down with us. To some of you who were able to come down to Mar-a-Lago. Thank you. And I want to publicly thank all of you who have stood with us, including President Trump, because he helped us raise, when no one in Maryland of high office, you might know who I'm talking about, would help us. President Trump stepped up. We raised $250,000 and we put it right in the media. We have a targeted goal, folks. We have, and I'm not going to disclose all of this, but we have a plan and we know exactly every voter that we can win. And if we reach them and win them, we win. And this model is dependent upon turnout and it's dependent upon getting our message out. And so that's why we're running so hard every single day, and that's why we're here tonight, because it's not over, folks.
Amen.
Don't forget that not only do we have early voting starting today, but they're still bringing in mail-in ballots as we speak. Now, some of the good news I want to tell you, some encouragement. Is this being streamed on Facebook? Oh, it is. Okay, so I'll not say that. We have good news. But what I need and what I'm asking you tonight is to reach down inside your hearts and your pocketbooks and your checkbooks if you can, and consider how to help us get across the finish line, because we have one more media buy we have to do. So if you can do that, that would be fantastic. But I also want you to be there on Victory Night. So stay tuned. You're all invited. It is going to be exciting.
It's awesome.
And we are going to win for our children.
Yes,
we are going to win for our families. We're going to win for our communities. We're going to win for our law enforcement and for the future of Maryland. And we're going to win because we cannot let Maryland be used as an experiment for this ungodly vaccine experiment and passport that they want to put on us, and forced masking and all of these mandates.
Right.
We're going to put the power back in our hands so that we have our health care, so that we have our children in our schools, and that we, once again, have our freedom. And because of that, and by the grace of God, we're going to stand there, and we're going to swear in January as your next governor. I'm asking for your support. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Got it, my brother.
I love the song. I'm happy to take a couple of questions too. You all have invested your evening, and one of the things I love to do is answer questions that might be on your heart. So I'm happy to do that. But I have to go off Facebook Live.